Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Mr. Pad Paramahansa Parudikacharya Astotar Tata Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parudikacharya Astotar Tata Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavin Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Hey, you have to do me a favor here. You and you have to move over this side. We're not going to push the lady way in the corner like that. Vijay, you stay where you are. Now you can move or not move, it's up to you. You can move or not move, it's up to you.
Okay, I'll move closer.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
I like to sit where I always used to sit.
Right there. Is that okay? All right. All right, let me just find out the verse if I have it right. Tapas, you know the verse, right? I guess
So it's 5:3:14.
5:3:14 is the one we're on? Okay. Thank you. Oh boy. All right, here we go. Narayanam namaskritya narang chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiriye. Before reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashtaprayesha Bandreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Niṣkiñcana. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord who is glorified in transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this first day of September 2021 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace HG Dravida Dasa Prabhupada. Tyler, move over here. Okay. We are in Canto 5, the Creative Impetus, Chapter 3, Rishabhadev's appearance in the womb of Meru Devi, the wife of King Nabi. Text number 14. So this is prose. I'll just chant it myself. Ko māyate parajito parajiteya māyā navasita padavyana vritamatir vishaya vishabriyana vritaprakutir anupasita mahachadanaha kava. Who is that person? Iha, within this material world. Te, of your lordship. Aparajitaha, not conquered. Aparajitaya, by the unconquerable. Māyā, illusory energy. Anabhasita padavya, whose path cannot be ascertained. Anavritamati, whose intelligence is not bewildered. Vishaya visha, of material enjoyment, which is like poison. Raya, by the course. Anavrita, not covered. Prakritihi, whose nature. Anupasita, without worshipping. Mahachadanaha, the lotus feet of great devotees. Translation. So this is still the priests of King Nabi who were praying to Narayan, Lord Narayan, who's appeared. Dear Lord, unless one worships the lotus feet of great devotees, one will be conquered by the illusory energy, and his intelligence will be bewildered. Indeed, who has not been carried away by the waves of material enjoyment, which are like poison? Your illusory energy is unconquerable. No one can see the path of this material energy or tell how it is working. Purport. Maharaj Nabi was inclined to perform great sacrifices for begetting a son. The son might be as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but such a material desire, be it great or insignificant, is brought about by the influence of Māyā. A devotee does not at all desire anything for sense gratification. Devotion is therefore explained as devoid of material desires. Anyabhilashita shunya. Everyone is subjected to the influence of Māyā and entangled in all kinds of material desire. And Maharaj Nabi was no exception. Freedom from Māyā's influence is possible when one engages in the service of the great devotees. Mahat Chadana Seva. Without worshipping the lotus feet of a great devotee, one cannot be freed from Māyā's influence. Srila Narottam Das Thakur therefore says, Chadaya Vaishnava Seva, Nistara Payechi Keba. Who has been freed from Māyā's clutches without serving the lotus feet of a Vaishnav? Māyā is aparajita, and her influence is also aparajita, unconquerable. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 7.14, Daivi Yesha Gunamayi Mama Māyā Duratyaya. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. Only a devotee can surpass Māyā's great influence. It was no fault on Maharaj Nabi's part that he wanted a son. He wanted a son like the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who was the best of all sons. By the association of the Lord's devotee, one no longer desires material opulence. This is confirmed in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 22:54. Saru Sangha, Sarva Shastre Koi, Lava Matra Saru Sange, Sarva Siddhi Hoy. And Mahat Kripa Vina Kon Karme Bhakti Nai, Krishna Bhakti Dure Raho Sangsara Nahi Kai. If one is serious about escaping Maya's influence and returning home back to Godhead, Prabhu, sit on this side. That's the ladies' side. You can bring the whole chair over there if you need a chair. If one is serious about escaping Maya's influence and returning home, back to Godhead, one must associate with a sadhu or devotee. That is the verdict of all scriptures. By the slight association of devotee, one can be freed from the clutches of Maya. Without the mercy of a pure devotee, one cannot get freedom by any means. Certainly a pure devotee's association is necessary in order to obtain the loving service of the Lord. One cannot be freed from Maya's clutches without sadhu sangha, the benediction of a great devotee. In Srimad Bhagavatam 7.532, Prahlad Maharaj says, Naisham matistavarudu kramangring spishat janarta pagamo yadartaha mahi sampararajo bhishekam niṣkiñcananam navanitayavat. One cannot become the Lord's pure devotee without taking the dust of a great devotee on his head. Pada rajo abhishekam. A pure devotee is niṣkiñcana. He has no material desire to enjoy the material world. One has to take shelter of such a pure devotee in order to attain his qualities. The pure devotee is always free from the clutches of Maya and her influence. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, this is a wonderful discourse here on the importance of association and ultimately taking shelter of a pure devotee in order to escape from the clutches of the material energy. As Srila Prabhupada so nicely quotes here, Daiviyesha gunamayi mama māyā duratya. Krishna says in the 7th chapter, 14th verse, that Krishna's this divine energy of mine, composed of the modes of material nature, is extremely difficult to overcome. When he says duratya, he means practically impossible. Overcome on one's own, that's the point. Mame vyepapadyante maya me tang tadantite. But one who surrenders unto me can easily cross beyond it. But how does one surrender unto Krishna? Not directly. As he says in the 4th chapter, tad vidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya ubidekshanti jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. If one wants to understand all the intricacies of our situation in the material world, how it came about, and how we can get out of it, one has to have the association of already liberated souls, and especially a soul who is ready to instruct you and give you shelter. So that's the spiritual master. And in the 1st chapter of the Adi Lila of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's very clear that there's actually spiritual masters. It may not be so clear when Rajendranatha Prabhu is here and we chant that long verse. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalang Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha. That Gurun is plural. So I offer my obeisance unto the spiritual master, Vanaham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha. And who are those spiritual masters? That's described in that 1st chapter. There's 3 kinds of spiritual masters, the general categories. Who can say what they are? Right? The parents? That's sometimes described as the first spiritual master. Vartma. Yeah, thank you. The parents can act as a guru, if they're Vaishnavas, and you naturally are raised by them and obey them in so many ways, then that's good. But ultimately, one must find a spiritual master of whom one can completely take shelter, and that's the Diksha Guru. But to get to that point, there are often many Shiksha Gurus, means devotees who provide instruction in the path. And first, there's always the Vartma Pradakshika Guru. And all the devotees who go out and meet the conditioned souls, try to give them a book, invitation, come to the temple, whatever way you expose people to Krishna consciousness, invite them to take part, you're a Pradarshika Guru, Vartma Pradarshika Guru. Vartma means path, Pradarshika means shows, one who shows the path. So we're all meant to be gurus, we're all meant to be preachers, even if we're full-time pujaris, that's also great preaching. Because to dress the deity so nicely, I'm sure we always appreciate how beautiful the deities are. But on Janmashtami, it was so stunning. They got this new outfit, all the way from Vrindavan, all those little jewels that were put on there, the little, on the dresses, especially Radharani's dress. So this attracts the mind of everyone, the devotees, people who just come for the first time, people who are just becoming devotees. In other words, the temple itself is a very important preaching vehicle. And maintaining it, that's part of the process of preaching, is maintaining the temple, keeping it clean, and worshiping ourselves. So we're all meant to be representatives of Krishna, but specifically the Diksha Guru, someone who, as we learn in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami has given us these wonderful verses of the progression from the first stages of devotion all the way up to prema. So the first one is Shraddha. Now Shraddha means faith. That faith is all important. Without faith in Hare Krishna, chanting Hare Krishna, why would you chant? You have faith in those who instructed you and the holy name, but you don't have so much realization yet, but still you take part of the process. So you can see how foundational faith is. So there has to be, but this faith that first brings you into the association of devotees is not the ultimate faith. This is Prabhupada defined it as respect, preliminary interest, something like that. Whatever it helps you to increase your exposure to Krishna consciousness. Now in this day and age, of course we always have this temple. We're very fortunate to have it nearby so that we can visit daily or regularly. But there are many places in this country, in this one city, where the temple is kind of remote. You may be able to go once in a while, but sometimes in the middle of Idaho or something, there's really no temples. But that's the two-sided benefit of the electronic age. If you hear about Krishna, if your cousin got a book and she reading it and they say you should check out Hare Krishna, you can get online and you can have the whole world of Krishna consciousness available to you. Just like in real life, we're making choices every day, right? Most people are like locked into a certain habit of making choices. They'll get up in the morning, go to work, come back in the evening, watch a certain channel, get on a certain websites, and so they have a certain routine according to their mode of nature, isn't it? If that can be, if devotees there be an intervention, and within that routine, interjected some Krishna consciousness, maybe one of those cards inviting someone to the lounge, or some friend who had a good experience at the temple, I may say, something like that. There can be some influence. Then one's routine can change, and Krishna, the rays of the Krishna sun can shine into the usual darkness of Kali Yuga's consciousness. So ultimately, Rupa Goswami goes on, that preliminary faith brings you into the association of devotees, and in that association, either personally, which is most important and powerful, or remotely, but somehow association, you hear. It's a Ado Shraddha Sadhu Sangha, and then Bhajana Kriya. So association and Bhajana Kriya involves, on the most basic level, hearing and chanting. You hear something about Krishna, you hear Krishna's name, you hear the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, something. And when you learn a little more, you see all the devotees, they're chanting Hare Krishna, let me try it also. And so the bhajana begins. And as soon as that bhajana begins, then the purification begins. Because Krishna's in the heart as soon as you start chanting. Very powerful purification. And if one is serious and reads, and this is where the philosophy is so important, and as soon as one gets a book of Srila Prabhupada, you're getting Prabhupada's association. Don't ever forget that. And if we want Prabhupada's association, open his books. He wanted us to read and study those books. You know, I've spent my whole life practically preparing these books, finding the books, just so devotees can have Prabhupada's association. And here, him giving as he described it, what do these call personal ecstasies I put into the purport. In other words, he's all there. What is it? Devotional ecstasies. Thank you. So we shouldn't diminish that or think that it's less important than personal association with Krishna, with Srila Prabhupada. During his Vyasa Puja and other times we read about him, we see the remembrances, so many videos have been made. In this way you can also get Prabhupada's association. And it's very important and powerful, even in this age. I was fortunate enough to actually see Prabhupada personally and have a small amount of personal association. But as he personally said, and this is something you can all remember, these two words, Vapu and Vani. Who can say what they mean besides Vijay? Vapu and Vani. Yeah, the words. Words as opposed to the personal form. So Vapu is very fleeting. Prabhupada would come to the temple, then he would leave the temple. And you try to do, yes, it's very important. Any kind of personal service is very potent. And to relish, hearing Prabhupada personally give a lecture is, invaluable. But it comes and it goes. Prabhupada was with us for only 12 years. And, personally, in the West and preaching, available. And he was always flying here, flying there, flying there. So it's very rare. But you always have a chance to associate with the Vani. By his incredible effort and dedication, he constantly wrote these books of Srimad Bhagavatam, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Ishopanishad, the Bhagavad Gita, etc. Why? Just so we could always have his association and hear and let those words come and purify in our mind. So the association of the pure devotee is invaluable, and it's available to all today by Srila Prabhupada's great mercy and hard work. So we should take advantage of it. And Krishna said, so what happens now? If we keep practicing, we come into the association, we start the bhajan, the purification takes place. That's anartha nivritti. Now how long that will take is dependent on our seriousness, our determination, our sincerity, and our careful following, avoiding the offenses and doing all the things we know we should do and avoiding the things we know we should not do. Then those anarthas are being removed, becoming more and more purified, and you come to the point of nishta, which is real faith, defined by Lord Chaitanya as shraddha, shabde vishwas korhe sudridhanis choy, krishne bhakti korle sarva karma kitahoy. This means that real shraddha is the firm, unshakable conviction that just by practicing Krishna consciousness, all my aspirations will be fulfilled. This is not easy to come by. We have so many people. We had a big crowd, coming on Janmashtami. Not as big as usual, but bigger than normal, obviously. And there were different levels of that faith. Some people are coming because we always go to the temple once a year on Janmashtami. A lot of people we only see on Janmashtami. Fine, that's great. They come to see the deities, give a donation, whatever. But their faith that just by practicing I have so many things to do. I have to go to work. I have to support this. I have to give this, a million different things besides Krishna consciousness. But they're very pious, and they have maybe a little altar and everything, different levels. But devotees who are serious about trying to go back to Godhead in this lifetime, let's put it that way. It's a very rare, there's fewer people well, it certainly, just look at a handful that we are. And in the internet, there's probably a few more handfuls. And, but it's rare, it's very rare to have that blessing of being serious about Krishna consciousness. And that seriousness can increase by associating with serious devotees. That's the whole idea, that when we get into the, like, climbing into the washing machine, then you're sure to get clean really fast, right? So this is like, there's austerities to perform, but we can see that the value, the goal, is so much extraordinary, beyond imagining, that the austerities shrink down to practically nothing in this age. I mean, really, giving up meat, eating, intoxication. Yes, illicit sex is difficult, but it's possible to do if you're serious and you pray and you chant nicely and you dance. Dancing is important because it purifies the whole body. Okay? So, these verses. Now it's interesting here and so that you get to the part of Nishta, and then from there, Ruchi, which is growing throughout your process. Ruchi, the taste for everything related to Krishna, and real attraction to Krishna, personally, Asakti, which matures into Bhava, which matures into Prema. So it's all there and available to us depending on our determination. So Maharaj Nabi, now he's described here, Prabhupada says that this, Maharaj Nabi was inclined to perform great sacrifices for begetting a son. The son might be as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but such a material desire, be it great or insignificant, is brought about by the influence of Māyā. So he's describing that this Maharaj Nabi, he wanted to have a great son, as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Does this remind you of something? This was also the desire of, was it Prishni and Sutapa? I say, right? And they said, well, there's no one as good as me. I'll have to become your son directly. So this is what happens here also. This is kind of a material desire in that he just wanted to have this most exalted son, like God, But because he's so sincere and he's got the darshan of Narayan, then Narayan will appear as his son in the form of Lord Rishabhdev. And when we finally hear his instructions, you see it's kind of been leading up to that. So that has to be cleared off, and when Narayan is appearing, of course, that in itself is so purifying. So he's a very fortunate soul. This Nabi, no question about it. Everyone is subjected to the influence of Māyā, and Maharaj Nabi is no exception. And then probably the rest of the purport, he practically dedicates this to this idea, to this instruction. Freedom from Māyā's influence is possible when one engages in the service of the great devotees. So the association of devotees, what's the most important aspect of that is hearing. And when you hear, we had this verse in the fourth canto, which I think it appears 3 times with one variation in the Bhagavatam. It's a very important verse. Tuliyama lavenapi nasvargam nopanarbhavam bhagavat sangi sangasya martyanam kimutashisha. Now tuliyami means equivalent. He says that even a moment's lavenapi means a little split second. A moment's association with a Bhagavat Sangi. A Bhagavat Sangi is someone who's always in association with Bhagavan. Very rare. In other words, he's constantly, 100% of the time, thinking of Krishna within, and when he can, preaching and chanting. In other words, 100% Krishna consciousness. Very, very rare. How valuable is it? Bhagavat, so Tulyam Lavin Naswargam Napunarbhavam. It's even a moment's association is so valuable that going to heaven cannot be compared to it, that moment. Naswargam napunarbhavam. Napunarbhavam means not coming back, liberation. Liberation is so valuable. You've got this whole Kumbh Mela goes on once every 12 years, isn't it? Maha Kumbh Mela, 30 million people gather. Just so they can bathe in the confluence of the Yamuna and Ganges and the Saraswati at a certain astrological time, so they'll get liberation. This is how much they value liberation. It's highly valued. Krishna recommends in the Bhagavad Gita, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Doshana Darshanam You should always understand and see the faults, the tremendous evil in your life of birth, old age, disease, and death that we're subject to. That means that you want to get out of it. That's desire for liberation. So we should want to desire the liberation. We want to go back to Godhead, you know. Ultimately, you may forget about that desire and just want to serve Krishna's lotus feet in any circumstance, which will already include liberation. But to get to that point, we have to realize what are the problems of life. You know, the problem. Oh, I don't have enough money. You know, she won't answer my emails. A million different things. Can't get a good job. COVID-19. You know, but these are all distractions. In other words, those are problems that are come and go, and you may solve that one problem, and 10 more problems come in that door. But the solution to all those kind of problems is getting rid of this body itself. The body, this material body, gross and subtle, are the root of all of our problems, miseries, sufferings. When we talk about the threefold miseries, we're talking about impacting the body and the mind. The adibautic miseries, other beings, mostly human beings, you know, but it could be insects or anything, you know. So what are they doing? Well, a person can cause you great misery just by sending you a text that you didn't expect, that, you know, just blows up your whole emotional construct. Very sensitive, right? What to speak of people attacking you with weapons or insults. So there's adidaivik. It's fires and floods all over the world. I mean, we're kind of living in a little bubble of nirvana here. The weather, I mean, I've been here 32 years. It's never been this mild a summer. It got up to 80 one day. Oh my God, I had to open my window. I mean, come on, 120 degrees in Vancouver? Are you kidding me? People died.
Like monsoon in India.
Yeah, and the floods, and now they have the hurricane in Louisiana. Oh, it's not as bad as it's supposed to be, but it's completely flooded. So what hurts when that happens? You know, the body. You know, I'm wet, I am cold, my home just got blown away, I can't sleep. It all comes back to the body. So getting rid of all these miseries, well, that's a wonderful thing to hope for, you know. But so here it says, a moment associated with a pure devotee is way more valuable than liberation. Na apunar bhavam. Apunar bhavam means not coming back. And so na apunar bhavam means not valuable. That is less valuable than a moment's association with Srila Prabhupada. In other words, open this book, which Vijay Babu and many of you others are giving out, and this is more valuable than regular liberation, you know, which doesn't include going back to Godhead. And then Bhagavat Sangha, Martyanam Kimanta, what to speak of ordinary benefits like money and beauty, education, those are and good birth in some family. So if we really appreciate that, then we'll try to take advantage of that association as much as possible. And again, that brings us back. If Srila Prabhupada is our unquestioned pure devotee, then we should really take advantage of his association through his books and through those devotees who are following the books. This is also how we associate with the great devotees. Those who are following very strictly and who are representing Srila Prabhupada, this also counts, you know, because when we meet such devotees, you're also associating with Srila Prabhupada. So this is because it gives you a clue to pure devotion. And pure devotion can give you something even much more valuable than mukti, which is prema, pure love for Krishna. Maybe we should review Lord Chaitanya's teachings, what his teachings are. So there's two main verses describing what those teachings are. I'll begin with the one that's in the Chaitanya Mandusha, which is a compilation of glorification of Lord Chaitanya. Aradyo Bhagavan Vrajeshatanayas Tardama Vrindavanam Ramya Kachadupasana Vrajapadu Bhargenaya Kalpita Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanamamalam Prema Pumarto Mahan Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Matamadam Tatradanakna Paraha. These are the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. I don't know anything beyond that. I think this verse was written by Srup Damodar, but I might be wrong. So the first one is one should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Well, that's not anything special about, I mean, there's many devotees who are not Chaitanya followers who say that. But then the next verse, next word, Bhagavan Vrajeshatanayas, namely the son of the king of Braja. That narrows it down to Krishna in Vrindavan. And one should also worship, as equally pure, the place. Vrajeshatanayas Tadama Vrindavanam. So his place is an expansion of his internal energy. So that's worshipable. Also, we should aspire to go there one day and actually personally walk in Vrindavan and see all the places, visit the Krishna Balaram Mandir and others. So then one may ask, well, how? What's the best way of doing that worship? Ramya Kachidupasana Vajavadu Vagena Yakopita. The method of the gopis is the highest method of worship of Krishna. Now the basic principle of that is absolute love. Simply desiring the pleasure of Krishna. That's the greatest. And because they wanted that so much, they're in the bodies that are suitable for giving Krishna the highest pleasure in the conjugal rasa. So that's a basic teaching of Lord Chaitanya. And what's the evidence for all this? Srimad Bhagavatam, Pramanam Amalam, is the supreme evidence, the supreme book that we rely on for what we should know, what to do and what not to do. Krishna says at the end of the 16th chapter, he talks about this. Tasmat shastram pramanam te karya karya vivastato vastate gyatva shastra vadanoktam karma karta miharasi. He uses that word pramana. To find out for sure what you should do and what you should not do in life to achieve the highest goal, one has to consult the Shastra. And what's the Supreme Shastra? The Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. Srila Prabhupada gave his life to giving us those, and other books based on them. So, after that third line, and he says, Shri Chaitanya Mahabhutamadam, then Lord Chaitanya taught this, and I don't know anything else beyond it. So it's a very nice instruction. So since we're discussing the basic instructions of Lord Chaitanya, we can run through the Dashamula. This is another expression of Lord Chaitanya's. The complete philosophy is in this one verse. So if you learn this one verse, you'll have a nice framework for study. Everything you find in Bhagavad Gita and all the other books, you can categorize into one of these topics. So the first is, how do we know what we know? That's a very important point. Because unless we accept the Shastra as the ultimate pramana, and those who have give that Shastra purely and embody its rules, the acharyas, then we have no hope. We're adrift without we're in the middle of an ocean without a compass, or any other way to navigate. So, amnaya praha tattvam hadamiha padamang sarva shaktim risabdim. The first line, now this is called 10 root philosophies. The first one is about epistemology. How do we know what we know? This is a key point. People don't accept as authoritative what we do. They accept Fox News as the ultimate authority, and it's taken them straight to hell. They accept, whatever. There's millions of books. What is that verse? Shota Vyadini Rajenya. Ninaksani Sahasrasha. Apashyatam Atmatattvam. What is that?
What is the verse?
The verse is, I think it's the second verse in the second canto. Or, yeah. It's, I don't know the exact number. Second canto, first chapter, text 2 or 3. And Shukadeva Goswami is speaking to Pariksit. And he's, King Pariksit, and he's praising him for the question that he asked. Which the question is that we should all ask. What should one hear? What should one hear, chant, and think of at the time of death? And Prabhupada makes the point, we don't know we have 7 days left. Pariksit has assurance of 7 days. We may have 7 minutes. Who knows? The earth may open up right now. A lot of faults under here, So we should act as if we may die at any moment. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. That's really how we should feel, the urgency of it. So anyway, Pariksit asked that question, and then Shukadeva says, a very nice question. First verse is, Variyaneshate prashna krito loka tangnava. This very wonderful question, the best of questions. The asking and the answer to that question is beneficial for those who hear and those who listen to the answer. And so then he said, but those who have apashyatam atmatam, they have no vision of the self or the need for understanding the self. They have millions and billions. He uses thousands, but it's unlimited subject matters for hearing. Ain't it the truth? Who can deny it? You know, we live in the age of the Tower of Babel. You know, the internet is a huge disaster for people's consciousness, but there's of course a silver lining. You can key the right keys and you'll be on dandabats.com and you can associate with devotees. But for the most part, vast majority, it's, you know, a place to find porn. It's a disaster. So millions of subject matters for hearing, which keep people bound into this world. That's it. You read the little section, he describes what material life is, and he says, therefore, tasmat bharata sarvatma bhagavan ishvarohri sholtavyak kirtitavyasya smartavyak chechitabayam. He says, therefore, O king, Bharata, he said, the descendant of Bharata, one should worship, or one should hear about, remember, and constantly worship who? He gives 4 indications of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sarvatma, the Supreme, the Super Soul, the soul and all. Bhagavan, Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ishvara, the Supreme Controller, and Hari, and he who takes away all our miseries. So there's no question of who the subject matter should be. So that's what we're trying to do here, and we'll just go through quickly these 10 points. So Amnaya, how do we know what we know? Amnaya is the Shastra coming through the pure disciplic succession of Acharyas. That's how we know, and that's exactly what we have in Srila Prabhupada's books. The Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Bhakti Samrita Sindhu, CC, are all Amnaya. So what do they say? Who's the Supreme? Prahatatvam Hadamiha Paramam. That Hari, Krishna, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Well, what about him? Amnaya Prahatatvam Hadamiha Paramam Sarva Shaktim. He's full of all kinds of energies. The 3, basically internal, external, marginal energies. But he's also Rasabdim, an ocean of rasa. In other words, he's ultimately a person, and what he wants is to engage and experience all these rasas. And that's what he's experiencing in the spiritual world. But he wants us to experience it also. And so, as I explained on Janmashtami morning, that he comes in order to reestablish Dharma, because that leads to Bhakti, and to demonstrate the highest rasas, so that we can have a model, and which are explained in books like Chaitanya Charitamrita and Bhagavatam 10th Canto. So, Rasabdim. Then who are we? Tadbinangshangs. We are as separated parts and parcels. Mean we have his qualities in minute degree. So as he is Anandamaya Vyasat, so are we in our inner reality. In other words, it's all covered now. Our actual self is covered. We're not experiencing ourself as we really are. We're experiencing ourself in terms of this body and mind. So the whole process is purification, so we can experience our real self. So what's the nature of these souls? So many of us, all of us here in the material world, have been swallowed up by the material energy, the 3 modes of nature. Millions of births we've experienced, different forms. Now we're in the human form. Tadvimuktangs tabhavat. But some are liberated, and we can also become liberated. Vimuktam stabhavat. What is this world? What is everything? Beda beda prakasham sakalam api hade. Everything, material and spiritual. Saul, you there? Oh boy, you can't even hear me. Hare Krishna. You may have to stand up. Is simultaneously one with and different from Krishna. This famous beda beda prakasha. All right, we'll learn this if you don't know it. Achintya. Prakash means the manifestation, every manifestation. So, repeat after me. Achintya, Beda, Beda, Tattva. Okay, the truth with Lord Chaitanya is synthesis of so much of the other Vaishnava philosophies is embodied in this phrase. So Achintya means inconceivable, right? Beda means separated. And abeda means one. So it's inconceivable how everything, ourselves included, are simultaneously separated from Krishna, but one with him at the same time. Now how are we separated? Because we're individual souls, eternally. Right at the beginning of his instructions, second verse, I think it's, no, Ashochan, yes, the 12, Bhagavad Gita 2:12. What does it say? Natve vaham jatu nasam natvam neme janaripa. Nachayva Navishava, Sarvevaya Matakparam. Haribol Mogalila. Stay safe and come back to us with big scores. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So Krishna says right in the beginning of the Gita, all of these living entities, they existed in the past, we exist all now, and we exist in the future as individuals, separate individuals. So a big long purport there. Prabhupada is defeating the Mayavadis. It's from our commentators, because they say we all merge, right? We never merge. We will never merge. So in that way, we're separate from Krishna eternally. How are we one with Him? Like the drop of water in the ocean. We have the same qualities in minute degree. So that means that our forgetting Krishna means that we're estranged from our own real self. You understand? We're living a dream world based on this body and mind, which are not us. It's superfluous. So cultivating Krishna consciousness means cultivating our understanding, resurrecting it, reviving our actual sense of who we really are, eternal servants of Krishna. So that's that point. Beta, Sakalama, Beta, everything, both material also. The material energy is also Krishna's energy. He says right in the 7th chapter, read the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So everything is Krishna, but not Krishna. Sakalama, Sadhanam. Now all of these are called Sambandha Gyan, meaning what is this world? Where did it come from? Who am I? And what are all the relationships between those? So Sambandha Gyan is very important. It's the foundation of our faith and our practice. So then, what is the sadhana to realize these things? Sadhana, Shuddha Bhakti. That Shuddha Bhakti is defined by Rupa Goswami. Anyabhilashita shunyam, completely devoid. Don't say shunyam, say shunyam. And, I'm sorry. Which means devoid of other desires other than to please Krishna. You know, not easy, because we don't even know who Krishna is. And we're so used to trying to please this body. So there's training involved, there's sadhana, there's practice. And we know what it is, things to do, things to give up. The more you accept the things that we know we should do, getting up early, taking a cold shower, and a million other things, chanting holy name. And then avoiding 4 regular principles, etc. There's a lot of other things, all the offenses. So you have to learn what they are, so you can use your intelligence to, even when you have some tendency to go there, I won't go there because I know I shouldn't. Only human beings can say the word shouldn't and should. It's a moral, as in, the animals have no should or shouldn't, it's just instinct. You know? So therefore they have no karma. Because we have should and shouldn't, therefore we have karma. Okay, responsibility. Okay, it's getting late. So so that's the sadhana, and what's the sadhya? What's the goal? Shuddha Bhakti. Prema. Sadhyam tad pritameve tu buddhisiddhanam. Love for that Hari, who we mentioned at the beginning, for Krishna, is the ultimate goal of our practice. And it includes everything else. It includes knowledge, it includes faith, it includes activities in the love, all auspiciousness, piety, and it includes going back to Godhead. And what to speak of liberation, completely included in prema. You don't have to strive for anything else, and that's real faith. So I may have gotten a little bit off from the subject, but I think we covered basically what Prabhupada is talking about here, importance of sadhu sangha. All right, any five minutes or so for
Krishna?
We have a few locals here, then we'll call on you, okay? Vijay? Krishna?
Okay, Prabhu.
All right, go ahead, Daniel.
Thank you, Dravida Prabhu. I have one question. Who is Narayana?
Narayan. Narayan is a Vishnu form, and is an expansion of Krishna. There are many different Narayans forms. Narayan is four arms, and he stays in Vaikuntha, and there's millions of devotees there, all who have 4 arms and worship him. So, and he comes down sometimes on the back of Garuda to bless the devotees, like we heard with Dhruva. Were you here when we had the Dhruva? I don't know if I think it was before you joined, but he had darshan of Narayan. So having darshan of Narayan or Krishna is a very great blessing, very rare.
One more question. You said there's 3 types of gurus: Diksha Guru, Siksha Guru, and
Vartma, Pradarshika. Yeah, one who shows Pradarshika the path, who indicates the path. May not be full of so much knowledge and everything, but you have faith and you show the path to others. That way, you can be a Darshan Guru. Meet somebody on the street, or even who comes to the temple, and you direct them to take more steps in devotion. You gave a book to somebody? So that someone wasn't Vijay or... Okay, well... And you didn't read it right away, but you eventually read. You see? So that person is blessed. That person is, is the more. So now you have to be serious about devotional service, because that person gets credit the more you advance. Because so this is the way it works. Very auspicious, pious web of activity. Okay.
So, Prabhu, we devotees enjoy like Vatsalya ras. I mean, many devotees, what's the difference between like something like that versus here in the verse?
All right, I missed the first thing. What is it?
Vatsalya ras, like devotees. Vatsalya ras, I mean parental affection for the Lord.
Oh, Vatsalya ras. Okay, sorry, the accent in my ears. All right, Vatsalya ras is paternal or maternal ras. Personified by Mother Yashoda, Nanda, And so the question is, what's the difference between that and conjugal ras?
He wanted to have a child.
No, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
God, so...
Oh, so he could have Vatsalya ras.
But yeah, many devotees want something like that, like Krishna. They have like that kind of a ras. They think of him like that,
Yeah, I think...
that's material or...
well, the thing is that you don't know that that's the only desire. In other words, all it says is he wanted to have Vishnu as his someone like Vishnu. So to have a child like God, that's not Vatsalya ras, He may have the same blue complexion, he may play the flute. I played the flute as a kid. I wasn't like Krishna. So that this child like God, you don't hear them praying to have God. That's too much. But if they're sincere and pious, then Krishna appears. That's what happened in Krishna, and that's what's happening here. He says, "Well, there's no one like me, so I'll appear personally," as you said, and then it becomes Vatsalya ras. So Nabi is a very advanced soul, obviously, and you can tell by the prayers. Even the priests. And they were, it wasn't material. It was, please save us, and they were apologizing, So it's all, very auspicious. And it's interesting because when you go back a little ways, what do we have? Like Nidra, right? So his was more material, he wanted especially beautiful. It was fulfilled. And then he went to the heaven, or Pitriloka, whatever you want, But he was pious enough, to have a son like Nabi. So he's the grandfather of Rishabdev. That's a very auspicious position. So all of this is, is very intricate, and we can't get into the details. But Vatsalya is now. Did you ever wonder why a calf is called a Vatsa? Vatsalya really comes from Vatsa, because the cow is so affectionate to the calf. And it's so horrible just to even think of what they do with the slaughterhouses. They take the calves away. It's horrible. There's a tremendous bond of love there, and it's just broken and destroyed. So, but that Vatsalya is that wonderful caring that Mother Yashoda has. Yeah, that's what. All right, you're on, Vijay Krishna. Make it quick. Getting late.
Yes, Dravida Prabhu, my humble obeisances. Thank you for your wonderful class, Prabhu. My question is related to the three last sentences of the purport.
Which sentences? Three last sentences. Okay, thank you for that.
Of the purport. Quote, a pure devotee is niṣkiñcana.
Yeah.
He has no material desire to enjoy the material world. One has to take shelter of such a pure devotee in order to attain his qualities. The pure devotee is always free from the clutches of Māyā and her influence. End quote. So, Prabhu, in relation to this quote, I need you to pay attention to the word, to the two words, his qualities. You know better than me that there are 26 qualities related to the character and behavior of a pure devotee. And for me to build my question, I need to select Vijit Shadguna, completely controls the 6 bad qualities, and Moni, silent. He is silent. So, Prabhu, my question is, in what measure to control the 6 bad qualities shows more and better that this pure devotee has already surpassed the influence of Maya in relation, for example, to the quality called Moni, that he's silent? Because I do not see how I could be there feeling that this pure devotee has already surpassed the influence of Maya just because I am seeing that he's silent. Is it that in relation to these 26 qualities, is it that there are some qualities who show more and better that this pure devotee has already surpassed the influence of Maya?
Okay, I think, Vijay, I'll try to answer the question, but when you have, it's better you could write me. You know, these are questions that require maybe a little more contemplation, research. But what I'm getting from you, vis-a-vis the 6 qualities you're talking about in the beginning of the Upadeshamrita?
The 6 bad qualities are lust, anger, greed,
illusion, madness,
and envy.
Okay. So I think that one has to take shelter of such a pure devotee in order to attain his qualities. So the question is, how can we attain those? You want to know, how can we attain those qualities? They seem very difficult to attain.
No, my question is, when I am observing the character of the pure devotee, in order for me to know that he has already surpassed the influence of Maya, is it that in relation to the 26 qualities of a devotee, is it that some of these qualities show more and better that he has already surpassed the influence of Maya? I chose 2. Completely control the 6 bad qualities and
Mauni.
and
Yeah,
that he's silent. Is it that the control of the 6 bad qualities show more and better that he has already surpassed the influence of Maya?
Well, yes, and one thing that I kept thinking of is Prabhupada told us that Maunam doesn't mean Maunam. It doesn't mean silent. It means always speaking about Krishna. That's equivalent to that's more valuable than actually not saying anything. In Prahlad Maharaj's famous prayer beginning Prayena Deva Muneo for Mukti Kama, he derides those who simply shut up, and wander around in the Himalayas or find a cave or whatever, just to be away from the distractions so that they can get liberation. So Maunam for devotees means not speaking nonsense and always speaking about Krishna. And as far as the other, those 6 that you mentioned, yes, those should be very evident. Anger, what is it? Lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness, envy. Those should be completely absent. You don't want to see any manifestation of that. This is how these bogus yogis always fail. Eventually, first of all, is the greed aspect. Why do they come to America? To save the poor souls? No, because that's where the money is. But they can convince some poor souls to give their hard-earned money for their nonsense, because nobody knows anything. So we have a steady stream who came over, and still preaching on the internet and everywhere. So that immediately you say, no, I don't want to take shelter of that person. He's showing greed. And what to speak of lust? You start some hatha yoga thing, and then you get going, with some of your young lady students. That's happened again and again. You may make a show of these, controlling these 6, but if you're not getting pleasure from serving Krishna, eventually you deviate. It's happened again and again. I'm not going to name any names here. But never happened with Prabhupada. Never. He gets a huge temple, very valuable, the Detroit temple for pittance for $300,000. It was probably worth $10 million. And he could have retired there. Oh, this is my spot. I'm just going to. No, he went flying off at his, his age to visit the temple in Africa or something. He never cashed in or cashed out. He always showed complete indifference to material things. And he was, of course, full of knowledge and showed, everything else. So that's, we have to find that person who really demonstrates these qualities. And Maunam, yes, always glorifying Krishna. So that's, we have to see those. And also, I was thinking...
Thank you, Dravida Prabhu.
Yeah.
Wonderful answer to my question. Hare Krishna.
We really have to stop. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Sorry to go on so long.